DD Motorsport today, Project Freebie, and we're gonna get some base figures and we're gonna be messing around with some cam timing. We're on the standard ECU, guys. All right, let's see what this does. Now that this is running standard pistons and standard cams, basically a standard ABF now with a standard ECU. If I had to put a trigger wheel on it and mess around with some bits and pieces to try and get the standard ECU to work, and I have, as well as DD Motorsport's also done a immobilizer off chip for it, and he's going to actually burn a chip for this as well. So we're going to mess around first with the standard chip, and we're going to mess around with the cam timing. Like I said, we're going to advance it, retard it, and see what it does on the standard ECU. Then we're going to put the chip on and do the same again, maybe, or just leave it where it probably makes the most power. So let's see if basically a plug and play chip is going to make a difference on this. One done by DD Motorsport, and I'll probably put them up on my eBay store so you guys can actually purchase this at cost price. There'll be hardly anything in it, literally just postage, worldwide shipping as well. So let's see if that actually does work, and then you guys can see where it works and the best cam timing to actually have your chip at, if this actually works. 2 degrees retarded seems to be the sweet spot for me. Sometimes it doesn't work for every single car, but I've never actually tried it on the standard ECU. So let's see what a total standard ECU, standard cams, if there is any difference at all with messing around with the cam timing. All right, guys, we're gonna get a baseline down now. So as you guys can see, the graph has got a really good shape. Torque curve is quite smooth, and so is the power curve. Peak power at 6250, which is probably about right, and the peak torque as well is about right for one of these. The horsepower is a little bit down to where it should be, but I kind of put that down to this rolling road is a bit stingy. Rolling roads, it's a lottery. This could be reading 160 on a different rolling road. That's not what's here at Cause. You do need to kind of almost ignore that figure and just basically focus on what we're going to gain from this, what we're going to lose from this, from today's experiment. Now, I've had a chat with DD Motorsport, and he says there's no point going 1, 2, and 3. Start with 2, advanced, and then you can see if you're moving in the right direction. If you've lost power, then there's no point going to 1 degree advanced or 3 degrees advanced. Go for 2, and if it moves in the right direction, then you can maybe go for 3, or you go for 1 and see if that makes a difference. And again, likewise with the retarding, we'll put it at 2 degrees retard, and then if it moves in the right direction, then maybe we'll try 3, or maybe we'll try 1. But for the moment, we're just going to do 2, 2 and see which way it works and how it actually changes the curve, and if there's any gains or losses. Okay, so we did the 2 degrees advance, and as you guys can see, it peaked 200 RPM lower, and also the torque was about 100 PM lower. And as you can see, we've lost 3 horsepower exactly, and not very much in torque really, the peak torque, but you can see it tails off a lot quicker. So there's no point going for 3 degrees or 1 degree advanced. So now we're going to go 2 degrees retard. Okay, so looking here at the data between run 1, run 4, the 1 degree, you had the same power, so you had no gain, but yet you lost quite a bit of torque, about 4 Newton meters of torque. So there's literally no positive with 1 degree. 2 degrees retard, which is obviously you've gained almost 3 horsepower, you've lost 4 Newton meters. And the peak point is there's only literally no difference there, but you've actually extended the RPM range 200 RPM. So it's going to make the car feel a lot more revier, even though you've lost 4 Newton meters, which in actually, what is 4 Newton meters? I think, was it maybe 2 foot-pounds? Very little, but yet you've gained 3 horsepower. So I think that's, not a bad result to actually go for a lot happier over 5 grand. You're definitely going to feel that kind of more eager to rev with this setup on a totally standard ABF, that's what you're gonna get. Now, I've reset the timing again to 0, and now we're gonna do a before and after on the chip. This is basically what the map looks like. So that's the map for fuel, gasolina. So these are kind of all the little maps. It's totally different and totally counterintuitive to what you're used to if you do standalone. Crazy. Well, it sounds, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but it definitely sounds a little bit different with the chip in it now. Probably going to see about, I don't know, anywhere between a 6 to 10 horsepower gain on this little chip. It is just literally a generic chip, not a custom chip. Okay, so this is a standard chip. This isn't a custom chip to the car, so this kind of will apply to anyone that may want this chip. So we've seen basically a 10 horsepower increase and 10 Newton meters increase as well. So that's pretty cool. And as you can see, there's basically that gain of torque of the 10 Newton meters all the way across the board. I mean, at 192, that's what, 147 pounds-foot. And you can see the horsepower from around, I don't know, 5 grand-ish, so, or 4.5. It's definitely a nice thick, under the peak, a nice thick increase of 10 horsepower. So the car's definitely gonna feel a lot nicer. Got the added torque, and then obviously at the point of crossover, we're gonna have a nice increase. So the car's definitely gonna rev a lot nicer. Right, so we did a final run and we did some more adjustments, and as you can see, it gained a lot more lower down and in the mid-range as well in torque and the power. Basically, that's that kind of curve there. We picked up a little bit and it definitely breathes a lot better with what we've done, and we've actually gone to 160, which is, like I said, ignore these figures. What you got to look at is the difference between there and there, and it's like almost 15 horsepower gain, and we've got a almost 20 or 18 gain in Newton meters from 192 to 198. So, and it's all pretty cool. So I can't actually wait to take this on the road, and let's just see what this drives like. Now, in the real world, driving the car, it definitely feels a lot more responsive, definitely unchanged at light throttles and stuff, but yep, medium to heavy throttle, you definitely notice a more get up and go, and you do notice that extra 15 horsepower on an NA car. That's not a bad jump. So DD Motorsport has on file a generic plug and play chip. We put that in, and even with that, we saw a 10 horsepower gain on his chip, and we saw a nice increase in torque as well. So then we kind of sat down, looked at the map, I made a few suggestions, so did he, and we kind of worked together, and we burnt another chip, put it in, and as you guys saw, there was a nice increase at around 2.5, and then a nice increase in torque, you know, of 200 or almost 198 Newton meters of torque in the mid-range, and it kind of held it on longer, which obviously when it crosses over gives you that horsepower, and we saw a nice increase in horsepower as well, all the way to 160. Now, yes, the figures, regardless of those figures, the 160 is not what's really important here. What's important is where we started and where we ended, and it was about 14 to 15 horsepower increase on this chip. So, I mean, you're going to be more or less guaranteed some kind of gain regardless of where your car's at, as long as it's in healthy condition and all the NOx sensors work and there's no other issues with the car. You're going to see an increase in torque and horsepower with this chip. Selling this chip on my eBay page, So it kind of gives you some kind of guarantee for shipping. We're going to do worldwide shipping on this, and it's going to be an all-inclusive price of 120 euros, which is not bad for this kind of chip, which you're kind of seeing the proof that it does actually give you an increase in power and torque. The only thing we haven't done to some of these eBay chips is we haven't increased the RPM range. We've left it at 6,950. Some chips do 7.3, some do 7.5, and there seems very little point in doing that when your standard peak power is 6.2 or even 6.1 it made it at. So there seems no point revving this thing to 7 grand. It's just noise. You might as well change at around the 6.2 mark and kind of drop shoe, hopefully, if you've got the right kind of gearbox, in that nice beefy torque of 100, almost 200 Newton meters, to then change up again. There's no point revving it out to 7 grand. There really isn't. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.